Hey, it's been a minute.
It's been a while.
You need to subscribe.
Ooh, yeah.
You need to get to 1,000 subs as quickly as possible.
Like real fast.
Someone has told us they were going to kidnap us if it doesn't happen. I value my life more than Josh's.
I do too. And the kidnapping part is confusing because we're both adults. So I don't know if it's children that are going to take us away, which honestly is a little bit scarier.
They haven't told. We don't know who they are.
No.
They're threatening us, and you need to hit the subscribe button to save our lives.
Yeah. Please save our lives.
Anyway.
Welcome back to Phantom Power Hour. I'm Josh.
And I'm Jeremy.
And I almost forgot who you were.
It's been a while.
It's been a long time since we've sat down. We've both been busy. You've been like extra busy.
Well, you've been extra busy too.
This is true, but I mean, you've been like extra busy.
This is true. A lot of stuff happening. A lot of stuff. We haven't talked to you in a while. Mm-hmm. How you been?
How you doing? That's Joey from Friends.
That's a throwback.
Yeah. Not a throwback for me. That's what's playing on the TVs every morning when I go to the gym. They have like TBS on a bunch of the TVs. And okay. I guess TBS for the last 2 years has just been doing Friends Anniversary.
Could be worse.
Yeah. I don't hate it. Yo. It's very nostalgic.
Can we go ASMR for a second?
Ooh, very crispy open of the can.
How'd that feel? Did you like that?
Can you hear it bubble and sizzle? They probably can't hear it bubble and sizzle. I probably have a dialogue isolator on right now.
All it was for nothing.
No, I'll turn it off and I'll boost it. Make it real loud.
Okay.
Yeah.
So what should we talk about? Just catch him up on everything?
I feel like we can catch up because we've done so much. If you follow the Recording Studio Loser channel, you've seen some of the things that we've been up to.
Very little. I mean,
well, we haven't talked to the fine people since pre-Styx about those things. Oh. I mean, so we had that episode in Nashville, and we talked about that trip in the moment a little bit. But before then,
which one was that? Did that ever get out?
By the time this comes out, it will be out.
Oh, okay.
Mm-hmm. And other than that, I think the last episode was pre-Styx.
Wow.
Yeah.
Should we just start from the beginning?
Yeah, start from the beginning, Jeremy.
It was a warm day in July 1986. I burst forth into the universe. So Styx. Mm-hmm. If you've watched my channel, you've seen me do this before. I did the first one by myself, which was a nightmare. The second year you went with me. Yep. That was amazing.
It was so fun.
We're figuring out shaky cam though. So many nasty comments about shaky cam.
Lots of nasty shaky cam comments, but yeah. I get it, you know.
I get it. And then this year was just fun. We kind of did a wider range of what we're talking about.
Less shaky cam this year.
A lot less shaky cam. Mm-hmm. Go check it out. If you're into not shaky cams.
If you're into shaky cams, we still got videos for you.
We can go watch the old ones. You'll love them. So, yeah, I mean, Styx was at Ruoff Music Center in Indiana, if you're familiar with the location. Although people who watch those videos will claim it's in any other state than Indiana.
Yeah, when I mean...
It's weird how people argue about that.
Yeah.
No, you're in Connecticut.
No, this is Missouri.
Nope.
It definitely wasn't, guy, but...
I didn't drive that far. I can tell you that. I'm a much more lazy YouTuber than you expect. But we talking to Chris there, the front of house guy, mm-hmm. As well as Evan.
Yep.
And we talked to a couple of the managers, tour manager, production managers.
Yeah. And those videos haven't come out yet. I'm very excited for those.
It's interesting to see the parts of the stuff that you don't normally get to see. And what does that look like? What do those people do? What makes the whole thing function? Like, that's the exciting part for me, because it's easy to go to a show and sit behind a front house tech. And you kind of comprehend it, even though that person may be like way better than I would ever be at that. And I can look and still learn. It's still, I understand what's happening.
Yeah.
But with tour managing, there's so many pieces.
Yeah.
And even it's been interesting through the whole process, like even remembering those conversations, because my wife just got a new job. She's an operations manager for a performing arts center now. And even hearing how she talks and the stuff that comes through, I was like, I understand this now. I get it. This is like, I can kind of, my knowledge of the music industry is kind of rounding out.
Yeah.
And like, I have the knowledge of the recording side. Then through YouTube, I kind of get in with the product side and see how products are made and developed. Then doing like this stuff, as I've done front of house and ran monitors on my own, but seeing it at this level, like
it's absurd.
There's a whole lot of other pieces that make it work. So I feel like I'm kind of getting a grasp of the entirety of the industry.
Yeah.
It's still this much.
I've always understood, I shouldn't say always, but I took a sound physics course in college, and that kind of opened my eyes to the different forms of calculations that can happen and some of the very fundamental ideas of making a room sound good, or what phase is and how that relates, and like where sound is coming from and things like that.
By the way, did Dr. Murray teach that course?
Yeah.
Can you put a picture of him up there and like make him the GOAT?
Oh yeah, Dr. Murray.
The GOAT.
Oh man,
This won't mean anything to anybody else, but I'm requesting this graphic
right here. Yeah,
anyway.
Dr. Murray is he's a legend for sure. So since then, I had my mind open enough to understand I knew nothing about kind of the high level stuff. And sitting there, especially with Cookie and his just rocket scientist brain of audio, and hearing him talk about what they go through on a daily basis, tuning the PAs, getting them set up, even before the tour starts, thinking about what is our PA loadout going to be? Are we going to have 12 mains, or are we going to have 13? And how is that going to throw this off? And how many subs do we have? Which ones do we flip around? Or where do we position those in relationship to the mains? And then all of that changes based on what kind of venue you're in. Do you have a roof? Are there buildings on the side? That kind of stuff boggles my mind. So it's been a real pleasure and treat to be able to chat with somebody that, first of all, he like loves talking about it.
Yeah.
And I get the impression that he loves teaching other people about what he's doing. So being able to do that, and then just know that there is such a high cap to that knowledge, that kind of stuff is exciting for me. I like it a lot. And you can check those things out too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Put the links down there for those videos.
In the description, perhaps.
Mm-hmm. Like, I love listening to Cookie because even off camera, like we're just constantly asking questions.
Yeah.
It's not like he's putting on a show when the camera's on. Like, he's the exact same dude.
100%.
When the camera's off. And like, we're nerding out because I love to learn. I'm constantly asking questions. And the thing I like about him, he'll give you like a very technical answer when it's appropriate. But then when you're asking a stupid question, he's like, doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. Like, okay, I understand now.
Like talking with Evan as well. He's also in his craft kind of like a rocket scientist brain of a man as well. Evan's a monitor engineer. And before having a conversation with him for the first time, last time we met with Styx, I never fully understood the depth of what monitor engineers do at that level. And when he's
totally honest,
when he's going off and talking about things, even as like simple, as straightforward as just the different kind of mixes for the different people in the band and stuff, and he's commenting on like having these VCAs routed this way and all this other stuff. It's like he's just spouting off all these ideas and thoughts. Like everybody knows this. This is just how it works. This is how I do it, though. This is like my routing and everything. I'm like, whoa, partner.
Yeah, you gotta slow your roll.
You slow your roll because I'm lost.
I understand the heart of what he's talking about. The thing that blows my mind is he's dealing with how many mixes at the same time.
Yep.
So everybody's got their ears on in the band. He has all of those mixes at his fingertips, as well as his own mix. And he's flipping through and mixing all of them simultaneously, keeping in mind well, this person likes this. This person likes this. This person needs this up at this particular second. And it's like, he's just it blows my mind to know, like, I can keep a running record of like an arc of a song when I'm doing front of house. So like when I'm doing it, I know like I want it to hit hard here. So I'm going to think about how I can arc this thing. Now doing monitors, you're like, okay, well, they need to hear this because of pitch reference and they need whatever they need at any given time to have the best performance possible. And that's happening across tons of mixes.
Yeah. Not to mention like different people hear things differently. And so you have to kind of do that in the moment mental calculation of how am I going to kind of shift this around. And now so this is not out yet either, but he let us check out Clang, which is their kind of 3D space modeling of positioning things in the IEMs. And so now not only is he like doing volume mixes and in some cases EQ changes for the ears, but now he's like moving things around in 3D space for every person based on what they like, based on what's happening in the song for every song. It's crazy. And I'd
forgotten about the Clang.
I always thought that it was just, I mean, I play a bunch of shows. I've used in-ears. It's a set it and forget it. And sometimes you can get a couple things changed on the fly if
you're lucky.
Yeah. Yeah. Or if they use like an X32 and you got the app on your phone.
Yeah.
I can't tell you how many wedding gigs I played where it's like, all right, I'm going to tap Billie Jean so I can change my ears.
Same thing with I played bass at church not too long ago. We run a Yamaha up front of house, and there's a split. We have a TF backstage, and you can get the app on your phone, set it next to your ears, and like kind of adjust as you're going. It's kind of a nightmare because it's so sensitive on the phone.
Yeah. The X32 and that whole platform is like pretty ubiquitous amongst a lot of the freelance sound guys in Indianapolis. So I've used that one a bunch. And my hugest gripe with it is if my phone locks, it will disconnect from the Wi-Fi of the device.
There's not like an auto keep your phone from going to sleep?
Maybe. Well, there would be, but like I'm doing 3-hour sets, you know?
True.
And I don't want my phone to die because then I need to get home.
I don't think there's a way around that.
And I don't need it up all the time. I'm not trying to change my mix for every song. But if I want to, like 4 or 5 songs deep, real quickly, like,
you gotta switch them.
Oh, keys, just like they pulled out this synth patch, so I need to pull them down a little bit. Or I didn't realize that like this vocalist hasn't sang very heavily up until now, and I need to turn them up.
Now they're into it. They're 2 drinks in. They're getting excited.
Yeah. Hopefully just 2. So anyway, my biggest gripe with at least that platform, or maybe it's a problem on my end, I'm not sure, but you connect to their Wi-Fi spot, and then if my phone falls asleep, I have to like open up my Wi-Fi settings, relink to that board to the console, reopen the app. Oh, it didn't find it. Let me close the app, and the whole time a song's going on.
Yeah,
but
it's a juggle. And then seeing how he does it, how much processing is happening on the channels themselves. And I mean, you still think about things like EQ and compression for your mix.
Yep.
And it sucks to just listen to raw files in your ears. It's awful. I can't stand it.
I'd imagine that I personally would have a mental hurdle of, no, I'm not trying to make this sound good. I'm trying to make these parts audible. And there's a stark difference between the two of those things. Because like sometimes there are pieces left out or pieces drowned out entirely so that you can get your reference pitch or so you can hear your own part a lot better.
Yeah.
And if I were doing that I can do that for myself fine because I know what I want to hear. But if I were doing it for other people, I feel like there would be this like weird mental hurdle that I'd have to get over of this doesn't sound right to me at all, but it's perfect for them.
Yep. And to do that in the moment with like 6, 7 mixes.
Mm-hmm.
I just can't. I can't get around it.
It's wild.
How do you get your own bias out of the way that fast? Anyway, we're going down a rabbit hole.
Yeah. But check out that one's live too. You can check out the chat with Evan, the most recent one, or the previous ones.
I'm trying to remember what they're called. We'll link them.
Yeah, we'll find them. We didn't get to talk to Scott much this time around.
The guitar techs suffered, which I was a bummer because I love hanging out with those dudes.
Yeah.
But we can link those videos to last year.
Yeah. We went through a lot last year.
Yes.
We talked about a bunch.
That's super cool, guys.
We did, however, get to pseudo break into Scott's studio.
Yes. On our trip down to Nashville. Actually, let me go get the mic real fast.
Clock wipe.
Scott, the guitar tech for Styx. This was like a weird small world moment. His studio is in the same building as MikTek's headquarters.
MikTek.
MikTek. I don't even know how to say it. It makes more sense to say MikTek. I've said MikTek. Just bleep me every time I say it wrong. So this was my first nice mic I ever got. And it was a silly and stupid idea to want to do this, but I didn't care. So, my gosh, I've had this thing for 15, 16 years. I don't know. It's been a while. Whenever it came out, I got it the first month it came out. And it wasn't even like, oh, it's out, I got to buy it. It just happened that way. And it was like the right price for what I was willing to spend on like my first nice mic that I ever got. This is the CV4. It's a tube condenser. It is really good on a whole lot of different sources. When it's right, it's very, very right. And it's rarely wrong. It just might not be your flavor. But it's not an overly saturated mic, but at the same time, it doesn't take like super high level of SPLs. So it's not going to be great on like a kick or anything like that. Kind of in between like 67 and C12-ish land if you want to get nerdy about it, which I always like. You can kind of see it in like the length of the mic, kind of built like a little bit like a C12 or a 251. But going to those headquarters, and Scott was not there because he was on tour with Styx. So we got to walk around his studio, which was incredible.
Yeah, that was awesome.
That dude knows how to put together a vibe.
Oh, yeah. So many vibes in there. You walk in, it just feels good.
It feels really good. And to know like you're right above, like if you just want a mic, you just go get one.
Yeah.
Sure. I mean, I don't know that relationship. I would abuse it for sure. But even aside from that, like the dude had like legendary gear in there. Like we were just walking past like, oh, well, there's a vintage Neumann. There's a it's a wild studio. But talking to the man himself down at MikTek, that sounds weird coming out of mouth like that. But I wanted him to autograph it. I don't know if it'll be, maybe if I cover both of our faces. There we go. I had him autograph it, and he like didn't want to do it. He's like, "You'll ruin the value." I was like, I don't care. It's not going to be something that I get rid of at this point anyway, because I've had this mic forever. It's like my first really nice item, so I don't plan on getting rid of it. But that was really cool to talk to him and go down there. It's I mean, all these are like designed here, but manufactured overseas, so definitely more affordable than some like other mic brands. But man, they hang. They're really well designed circuits. And that's the whole point. Like you can have a handmade capsule and all this stuff and it'll sound good. But if the circuit itself suffers, like it's more than the sum of its parts. There's got to be a good design to it. And this is a good design.
Here's another dude that like it seemed like he thoroughly enjoyed just chatting with us and kind of unloading some of his knowledge and
talked a mile a minute.
It was great. It was fun.
He's a fast talker.
That's true.
And
I am not a fast talker.
Kind of had the New York accent, I think. Was it?
I was getting like East U.S. vibes of some fashion.
I loved it.
New York, Jersey, something like that. I don't know. I'm not good with accents, though.
I'm not.
So he might have been from Wales, for all I know. Not those kind of whales.
Everyone from Wales is a whale. Facts. So that was cool. We just go on Buckshot. We hung out with Andrew Masters a little bit.
Yeah, that's cool.
Didn't film a darn thing, but
just got to hang out, spend a little time with him.
What else did we do? We stopped by Colt Caproon's place.
And that's where I got to hear Dolby for the first time.
Yeah. Describe that experience.
I have tried to describe it to a handful of people, and every time I do, I feel like I'm being really dramatic.
Yeah.
It legitimately gave me a feeling like I'm hearing music for the first time.
I hear that from a lot of people.
And it's really interesting. I've experienced varying levels of like 5.1 before. Mm-hmm. I've heard soundtracks in a movie theater, that kind of thing. And that sounds good and that sounds cool. But the best way I can describe that and like the difference is a traditional 5.1 or even like theater setup feels like you are here and sound is placed in specific parts around you, which is kind of technically what it is. But sitting in the sweet spot for a Dolby setup felt like I was inside of the music. Mm-hmm. And I know I don't know, it's a very not descriptive way of explaining the experience. And that's why it's so hard for me to precisely explain it. But felt like I was inside of the mix. And mm-hmm. it's really, really cool. And there's so much happening on the good mixes, at least, right? There's so much happening, but the level of clarity is also absurd.
It's like you're experiencing and this is where there's like pushback with Atmos, mm-hmm. right? Because, we only have 2 ears. We just need 2 speakers. One, that's not how sound works. Mm-hmm. If I have my hand like around your head, you're going to know where I'm snapping.
Yep.
It's like the coolest part about being a musician, and I think it resonates with musicians, especially because if you've been in a room creating music with people, you have that like, okay, these things are happening around me.
Yeah.
And there's like a different connection with music that way. It's really more unnatural to listen to music just coming from a source right in front of you. Like even
we're very accustomed to it.
We are accustomed to it. And just as people probably got a little pissed when we added a second channel to music coming from mono, like, well, let's not add one more. Let's add 10. But why not? So it is a completely different way to present music. And I think that's the key. Not everybody's going to want to listen to it like that. Not everybody will. The people who will, this is a totally different way to deliver something to them in a way that you connect to the music in a much deeper level. Yeah. Because there's space for everything. You can hear every individual thing. Like, how many times have you really loved the way you tracked an instrument, a bass or a guitar that you've played, only to have it like carved up and chopped up so it fits into this box of a mix? But with Atmos, you really don't have to do that.
There's so much. It understand that there's just way more headroom for every piece to live.
There's a few pieces there. I mean, you have more space to place things. So if they're not on top of each other, they're not going to be fighting for space in the frequency range. On the other part of that, Atmos is just naturally not as compressed and limited. There's a whole lot more headroom, like, because you have to hit -18 to get to the spec. So when we're used to hearing things at like -5, -6, -7, like really, really loud mixes, and I'm a big fan of loud mixes, this is a completely different experience. You hear like the natural dynamics of the players, like, and so many things come out in that. Like, how are they picking the guitar? How are they approaching the microphone when they sing? Like,
nuances of vocal performance.
Yeah.
And it does, I think, lend itself to, we've talked a lot about, from the creative side, a huge piece of what makes a song good is the emotional intent behind the song. Mm-hmm. And I feel like a well-crafted song that's then that mixed well in Dolby lends itself to present that emotional context a lot more readily than a heavily squashed stereo track that is competing in the loudness wars.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, totally agree. Yeah. Couldn't have said it better myself. Especially with that accent.
You had an accent? I told you I'm terrible with accents. Was it from Wales? I had another thought and I lost it.
It's all the whales.
It's all the whales.
Oh, whale.
Oh, whale.
Can we work that into our asset bucket?
Oh, whale. Yeah, it's completely gone. Whatever I was going to say.
It probably sucked.
Probably did. It was probably bad. Gross.
So, I guess the last part of our Nashville trip was hanging out with Warren David, where we spent the most time sitting in another Atmos space. I didn't really mean for it to turn into just an Atmos room, but even the weird thing that we went and did after that, going to a Soyuz event, there was an Atmos room.
Yep.
But sitting in Warren's space and like seeing how somebody does it, this has always been something I've been interested in, and like the artistic side of how I like to approach a mix. I've wanted to go down that road. The business side, like, people are asking for it, and it's hard to say no anymore, but actually seeing him doing it, how he's doing it, kind of seeing best practices, because as far as I'm concerned, this is the Wild West and there's no rules, but having sat in those rooms and we can hear a bad mix and we can hear a good mix, holy cow, they're different.
Very different.
And I'm sure, like, even Warren said himself, like, no, I can show you some things that work for me right now, but I guarantee a year from now, stuff's going to be different, and he'll be getting even better and better and better. And I can see that happening, but just seeing how it worked for him in the moment, I was like, this is approachable. And seeing the different level of rooms, because I feel like with Atmos, it's because it's new and there's not a lot of like products out there to support that. There's the thing of like, well, you can't get an Atmos for less than $100,000. I can tell you can. And I'm actually building an Atmos room. Oh, I dropped the bomb. Dropped the bomb. The whole room, the budget for my room is less than my monitoring section in my current control room.
That's wild.
The entire room. Construction, devices, it's probably pretty close to the cost of those monitors and the monitor controller. Yeah. Pretty darn close. And that's buying everything to do the construction, the dumpster to haul away the stuff, buying the interface, the speakers, and a computer.
Yeah.
It might come out a little more depending, because I don't know how many I don't know like the treatment that's going to go in there yet. So if I go ham on treatment, I might go.
Don't suggest using ham for treatment. That's going to spoil so quickly.
if I go big on treatment,
big ham. Yeah, that I didn't realize cost-wise it was going to be so similar to that, like so close.
I mean, it's still not a small amount of money. I say that, but my speakers are very expensive.
Yeah, but it's not impossible. It's not kind of an elitist, like you can't be a part of this kind of wave of music tech.
I mean, there's always going to be people pissed about there's barriers to get into something, like, because I mean, you could mix left right with nothing more than your computer, Reaper, which you can get for free, although you shouldn't. You should pay for it, and a set of headphones, and you could be mixing. Stock plugins, you don't have to drop a dime if you don't want to. But really, if we're really talking about this in your commercial space, you're going to drop some coin on something, because people need to hear themselves. You have to isolate in some way. generally speaking, with different types of music, every rule is meant to be broken, right? But if you're doing this in a space that is meant to be rented, you're going to be dropping some coins somewhere. So just like that, as more things come out more affordably, like if I was trying to build this studio 2 decades ago, well, let's say 30 years ago, because I've been here for a decade and a half. But if I was doing it 30 years ago, it'd be impossible at this price point. Is the products weren't there to do it like in a DIY way like I did. And that's kind of happening in the Atmos world now, where even on my Patreon, where I kind of teased like, oh, we're building, here we go. And like somebody got a little upset. And I'm like, well, how come you can't even think about getting into an interface for less than $35,000? And I was like, where is this information coming from?
That's some fake news right there.
And I was like, even if you went big on the current stuff that's out there, like big, 10 grand. Yeah. But that's going big. You don't have to go big. Like, so, and I understand like even speakers wise, like there's a whole lot of options out there and they're getting pretty darn cheap and they sound pretty darn good.
I feel like the cost is going down and the quality is going up. Maybe not equally, but a lot of the music tech is getting drastically cheaper and the quality, if not getting better, is at the very least staying just as good.
Yeah. I mean, the boxes that we've got over there, I did a ton of research in figuring out what to go with. I mean, some of the rooms that we sat in, there were different things.
Yeah.
Some of them I liked, some of them I didn't like. And I didn't plan on settling with the same brand that I have currently, but I ended up with Focal Alpha 65s. And the reviews on those things are insane. Like people keep saying like these sound way too good for the price. It's like, okay, whatever. You can, but I had a set in here for a long time, a couple weeks while we were doing work, and I was just like listening to music, getting acclimated to them, going back and forth between those and my big speakers, which are the Trio 6 ST6s, and these Focal Alpha 65 Evos, and they sound fantastic. And like on sale, you can get these around $250 a box.
It's crazy.
Like it's kind of bonkers. Even my first set of speakers that were cheap were more than that, and they sounded like dump. Like the old, what were the Yamaha HS series stuff sounded terrible, awful. Hated those speakers. This is a totally different class, and it's cheaper than the first set that I ever bought. It's kind of blowing my mind.
Yeah. So I'm excited for it. I know that there's going to be probably a lot more hate to come as videos start rolling out on the new room and stuff.
I'm sure.
I understand the argument, and we recorded the last episode so long ago, so this might be rehashing a lot of that, but I understand the argument of why would you invest in that room when the end user can't experience what you're experiencing? But
that's what we do every day.
Exactly. And
nobody's listening to music that I mix on $8,000 monitors
in the same room.
No.
Yeah. I also think an extra addition to that thought is that's like that take ignores the technological route that we've seen for the last 100 years.
Yeah.
Do you really not think that there are going to be companies trying to chase down consumer-ready products to experience new forms of media?
Mm-hmm.
Maybe we won't see it like next year, but I don't know.
You can currently see it, which is wild. Like even just since we've been down to Nashville, I've been listening to as much immersive stuff as I can, even in the tools that I currently have. I have purchased nothing else to listen to it on the consumer side. I just have the AirPods. It's pretty cool.
AirPods 2 do the same thing.
Yeah. And I mean, you can hear it, especially when you switch back and forth between Apple and their current renderer, and then you go to something like Tidal, then you hear the differences. And like Tidal's Tidal is using Dolby's renderer. Apple is using Apple's renderer. Yeah. And Apple's renderer kind of sucks.
That's one of those pieces that hasn't that bit changing since it first came out.
Yeah, they've been improving the renderer, and it's gotten way better. But for some reason, they're holding on to like this weird adding reverb thing. It's a moving target, which is not what people on the back end want to see when we're like trying to understand what the end user is going to hear. So you're kind of like watering down certain things just to hit Apple's renderer, which definitely sucks. But hopefully that'll change in the very, very near future. Who knows?
Or people just decide to make the Dolby render industry standard and are okay with the licensing of it.
I would hope that's the case.
It would be very cool if every platform just had a standard that we could stick to that would help propel everybody getting into this new market to know what target to aim for.
I mean, that renderer is really, really good. And the fold down was damn near 1-to-1. Yeah. I mean, we sat there and we listened to it and we tested it, and there's going to be people, it doesn't work. I would challenge you to go to an actual space and just listen. Because I mean, if you can find a studio to go do it, go do it.
I would challenge anybody, if you're on the fence or even against Dolby for some reason or another, have you experienced it in a room before? And I know that in the room part is a big piece of the argument that a lot of people make. I get it, but have you experienced it? Because I feel like it would be hard for somebody to experience that and not be excited for it.
I only think that's necessary if you want to mix it. Like, that's the wow factor, right? Mm-hmm. That's the part that's like, but that's the same thing if you're telling somebody like a mixer to go get some nice monitors. Be like, go listen to them. Well, okay, yeah. I can go to Sweetwater and sit in front of a bunch of different monitors and check it out. But I only think that's necessary if you want to get into mixing it. Like, if you're just a consumer, hey, just enjoy. Sit back and watch what happens. So I don't necessarily think that if you're trying to convince someone that Atmos is a thing, don't go to a room. Don't. Because I guarantee you're going to change your mind, one. But two, I don't think it's necessary because these other things are going to catch up. And either way, it's kind of null until it does. But that's not the point. That's all the room does. It's a function of how to deliver a file that can be decoded into any number of different deliverables. And the whole idea being all this is getting down to one deliverable for any number of applications and derivatives at the end user level. So I think that's the kind of way to think about it. Like, if you want to wow somebody, go to a room. Because there's definitely tracks that sound really cool in a room, but they don't fold down the right way.
That's also true. Yeah.
And
there are some tracks that are not going to sound good no matter how you present them.
Yeah. But on the same side of that coin, I could show you songs in here that would impress the crap out of you and would sound like trash in the car.
Yeah.
Like, I could make something sound insane in my room.
That's my base. Every time I practice at home, it sounds so good. And then anywhere else, it's so bad.
So it's like, it's the same argument that we've had. It's just repackaged. And I kind of don't care. I'm a little over the hate because, I mean, even like I said in the postings, like, well, how could you do it? The interface alone is going to cost $35,000. Like, no, it doesn't. And I kind of want to show you that it doesn't. Now, I'm not going small and cheap to be affordable. I'm getting like options that I think are really good, and they just happen to be affordable. Yeah. And this whole thing is going to come in under, like, if I didn't have to completely redo this room and pay for like starting from literal ground zero, or well, actually negative because I'm changing it from something else, as well as like moving a kitchen. So
that's right.
So like there's cost involved there with like plumbing and all that fun stuff. If I wasn't doing that and I had a space to start with, I mean, good Lord, this is now really affordable. Yeah.
If you were trying to go as budget as humanly possible, there are probably some other corners to be cut too, right? with the idea of potentially upgrading down the line and stuff.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, the Focal Evos are awesome. They're great. If you wanted to go really cheap, you could get NTMs, like the IK stuff. I mean, any speaker where you can hear in different spots, I mean, you can do it awfully cheap. I mean, there's definitely what do you think is appropriate? Just the same conversation as we have in left and right. What's appropriate for you to spend? What are you mixing? What do you need to hear? How true do you want this to be to like a flat experience? What's your room like? So I'm going big, but even then, it can come in less than 10 grand. So, which I know some people will be like,
oh, come on. That is, in some cases, half the price of like one.
Well, that's a big monitor, but
still.
I mean, my current monitor is up at 8 grand for the pair, and then I think 3 or 4 grand for the monitor control.
10 grand for a room might not make the most sense if it's a hobby. Yeah. But 10 grand for a room, if it's a business.
Your payback's under a year.
Yeah, 10 grand is not a giant investment in business terms.
No.
So I'm excited for it. I'm excited to see you start working in there and to be able to experience more kind of just mixes and learn more.
Because you wanted to.
I'd love to check it out.
You want to do a double dabbles.
I do want to. I want to experience. I'm an Ableton guy. We know this.
Yeah.
I want to see what kind of automations that Ableton has to offer natively. I want to see what the implementation could be like in that space.
Do they support Atmos?
They do.
Sweet.
Yeah. Yeah. I looked into the night we got home. I was like, what can I do with Ableton?
Well, I think we're going with Audio Aurea for the interface. So if you get the drivers for the Aurea, and then we can just plug in your computer in that room, and you could be mixing whatever you want. Or we can install Audien on that machine, whatever.
I'm just going to get a bunch of fart sounds and have them fly around.
I mean, why not? But that could be cool. I mean, I don't think there's any content on people doing Atmos in...
With fart sounds?
No. What DAW did you call it? I'm sorry.
Ableton. The best DAW.
Never heard of it.
The best one. My favorite. Did you ever watch that old school YouTube He-Man Master of the Universe, but it was the 4 Non-Blonde song? No. The What's Up song?
No.
Damn. There's this part towards the end where the chef from the cartoon is just mixing, and he looks at me and says, now it's time for cake.
Now it's time for Record Rex.
But first I have to ask you, Jeremy, what have you been listening to lately?
Oh, Record Rex.
Yeah.
So I don't even remember how I found this, but I showed it to you.
Oh yeah.
It's so good.
It's so like modern 80s, and I love it. Are they doing that Post Malone like auto-tune thing?
I have no idea. I don't know very little about this genre of music, but this one hit at the right time, and I was like, I'm just binging it.
I do like it. Who is it?
The Midnight. The song's called Jason.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I do like it, though. You sent that to me, I think, yesterday.
I was like, can you play sax like this? Like, I want to write some of this stuff. Because I guarantee it's like one of those things that kind of sounds easy. Not the sax part, but like everything around it. Mm-hmm. But it's not easy at all. But I've never done like drum machine programming and stuff like that, and it just sounds cool. Some of the chord moves are.
I'm going to say this on camera, so maybe there can be some accountability if it's a good idea. But I just watched a new Rob Scallon and Andrew Wong video.
Yeah.
And the whole thing started off where they each had to pick an instrument, and they were like really random ones. And then they played a game of Plinko, and at the bottom were just genres. So they each dropped a coin down, and they had to I say genres, but they're more characteristics. So they had to make a fluffy, smooth song using a banjatar, and then the Japanese I can't remember what it's called, but it's like an auto harp, like a Japanese auto harp.
Yeah.
I want to do that. That'd be so fun. Not that specifically, but do some random song. And I had 90 minutes to do it. But you said you want to do something with like a drum machine.
I know nothing about drums. I feel like it'd take me 90 minutes to figure out how to use a drum machine. I'm the worst at programming. That's why I have a room with drums. That's
why I just get a Casio keyboard from the 90s and hit one key on it.
I feel like that's what arcade's for.
I also don't know how I came across this song. We're going to stay in kind of the pop realm, but this is by Honey Revenge. It's called Airhead.
At this point, Josh did not realize that this was the same record rec he had made in the previous episode. To be fair, this was recorded weeks after that, but still, the human's fleeting memory is so unreliable.
Is this the band you showed me?
Actually, maybe I did. Like the almost Paramore, but Katy Perry.
Yep.
Yeah.
Oh, I love it.
Honey Revenge, the song's Airhead, and my best description is like what I said. It's Katy Perry meets Paramore. And
Katy Moore.
Parody. That's a good one. Parody. Well, is that all she wrote?
I think that's it.
We'll have links to those videos that we talked about down below that you can click at your heart's desire. There's also a little bit above those links are these things that YouTube's just trying out. They're rolling them out, but they're called the subscribe button and the like button.
It's a new test feature. If you like that feature, you should hit the button.
Yeah.
Just keep it around.
Yeah. It's a cool feature that we think that, we don't love everything YouTube does, but we think this is a good one. So hit that button. Both of them, really.
Yeah.
We'll see what happens. I hear that they change colors. Okay, bye.